During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Dr. Katrina Banks. Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you. So my first question, can you tell me a little bit about your business?
Absolutely. So Neurologic Optimal Wellness Physical Therapy is a outpatient neuro clinic in which I help individuals with movement disorders, such as someone with a stroke or with Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis, anything brain injury-wise, spinal cord injury-wise, anything with falls, if older adults falling. What we do is we help these individuals improve their quality of life by giving them hope and challenging their brain to be able to do things that they thought they couldn't do.
Mm-hmm. So what made you want to take this career path?
So my aunt had a stroke back in high school, when I was in high school, and I was trying to figure out why she had right-sided weakness and her speech was off, and I was really intrigued about what was going on with her brain. So I was able to go to her physical therapy sessions, and I got to see how the physical therapist worked with her, and they were able to get her back to walking and to get her transition back to home and her environment. And it was just amazing. I was blown away by how they were able to do that. So after I saw that, I knew that I wanted to be a physical therapist. And during my career, I traveled the country as a traveling physical therapist for 5 years. And I kept seeing, when I worked with individuals with neurologic disorders, that they didn't have anywhere to go once they left the hospital. It was either they didn't have the resources, or they would go to a generalized physical therapist that didn't really understand how to treat their diagnoses. So after seeing that over and over, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna put my big foot out in faith, and I'm gonna open this practice and make it happen.
So when you first opened this business, was like something that you kind of expected that was gonna happen, but it didn't go as planned?
At first, I was a little wary about it. Mm-hmm. My financial advisor kind of put me up to it. He was like, what is it that you want to do? Mm-hmm. And I said, I want to open a business. And he was like, are you sure about that? And I was like, I think I do. So he gave me some homework, and I followed through. And before I knew it, I established Neurologic Optimal Wellness in January of 2020. And I was blown away that I had actually found the name, I had established it, and it was ready to go. Now, of course, I started the business during the pandemic, 2020, the COVID, and everything shut down. So I was kind of like glary about, okay, is this really gonna happen? But I just pivoted, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna see people in their homes, and that's how the business kept rolling.
So when you started during COVID and during the pandemic when it shut down, how were you able to keep on going to make sure your business was gonna strive?
So I was kind of superwoman. I was literally doing, reaching out to different doctors for referrals. I was trying to figure out the marketing. I had no idea what I was doing, honestly. But I just knew that I needed to get this done and that people needed my help during that time. And people were very receptive to mobile with me coming to them. So it just worked out. And I'm glad I pivoted, because I, at one point, was like, you know what, maybe I should just hold off and wait till COVID kind of, goes by. And I'm like, no, I need to help people right now. So I was just very adamant about making this work. And people were very receptive, and I went for it.
So how are you able to transition from going to mobile to people's houses to coming back to your own facility?
So I actually decided to make the business hybrid. So I was able to see people in their homes that couldn't come to the clinic, and then there were people that were willing to come in to the clinic and get services. So people love that, having that option of either coming into the building or coming to them. And I like it because for me as a clinician, when I go to their homes, I'm able to see them in their environment. So I can work with them if they have trouble getting out of their own bed, or if they're having trouble getting out of their favorite chair, or if they want to get back to, lawn mowing. I can work on those, get creative and work on those things right in their house. Whereas people that come to the clinic, it's like a breath of fresh air. They're away from their environment. They come into a nice, cool space. There's a lot of different equipment and tools in here that they can use. And people just love it. When they walk out of here, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I came.
So would you say like the biggest difference between you going to people's houses and them coming here is that you're kind of a lot more creative at their house as opposed to being here?
I think I'm creative equally in their home or in the house. I think it's more of a convenience for the patient, honestly, for me to come to them. But it's also, honestly, for me as a provider, going to them, it provides flexibility for the schedule as well. So it kind of works both ways.
So when you first started this business, how were you able to make sure that people knew that they can trust you?
So I'm a pretty good listener. I think people just gravitate to me as a person. And a lot of people want to be listened to. They want to be able to talk out their problems. And I'm that type of person that will just kind of sit there, take it all in, and figure out, okay, how can I help you? And most people just gravitate towards that. And they see me doing good work in the community. They see me doing good things, within the clinic. And people just, hey, I want to see Dr. Banks.
So how are you able to go out in the community and be a great listener?
So what I typically do is, I think I'm a pretty cordial person. I'm pretty calm. I don't like a lot of confusion, so people know that about me. So when somebody comes up to me and they have something negative to say, I kind of shut them down and say, hey, that's not cool that you're even displaying that. And if you have a problem with someone, you need to go to them. So I'm kind of that person that deters people from being negative. I don't like to be negative. It messes up your whole vision, your whole day. So that's kind of just who I am as a person.
So how are you able to stay positive when people are negative towards you?
Thank God. For one thing, I am so glad I have God in my life, because there are people that will test me, and I just take a deep breath and I said, okay, I know that my character, they want to take me out of my character, and I'm not going to let them do that, because that's just not who I am. And people get upset because my demeanor is like, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, or if that's what you want to say, so be it. But I'm not going to stoop down to their level or, try to get back at them. That's too much energy. So
when there's somebody that might be having like a bad day and you're working with them, how are you able to build them up to have their day get better?
Oh, this is good, because I just had a client that came in last week, actually. His wife died like 6 months ago, and he was just not having a good day. He was just really down, and he was like, Dr. Banks, I don't even know why I'm here today. And I'm like, what's going on? I want you to vent to me what's going on. And he was like, I'm just really missing my wife. And I let him talk. I'll tell his whole story about how'd you meet your wife. I asked him, how'd you meet your wife? And what were the memories of that time with her? And he talked about his story. I made him work a little bit at the same time, and he felt amazing once he left here. So just listening, allowing him to just vent and speak about what's going on, he did great. He was like, I'm so glad I came. I'll see you next week. All right.
So how are you able to develop better communication skills?
I would say, honestly, just being a really good listener, honestly, and figuring out what to say before you say it. Like really being intentional about how you say something, what you say, and then allow that person to just, how do I want to say it? Allow that person to just have that moment. You know what I mean? I'm very direct, and I try to be very clear and professional, of course, with people. And I think people gravitate to that as well.
I've noticed every single person I've interviewed so far, they've always said listening is very important.
Absolutely.
So why is that so important to you?
Because especially when I have a client in here, and yes, I evaluate them and I know what their needs are, but I have to be able to know what they want so that I can incorporate it so that they'll actually come back and they'll have results because it's something that they want to do. So listening is super important, because if I just go on and say, okay, well, we're going to work on walking, and you get into the bathroom and they're like, no, I actually want to work on sit-to-stand transfers. Okay, well, I need to make sure I include that person into the plan, because they're not going to want to come back if it's what I want to do. I have to include them in the plan. So they do so much better when I'm listening to what their needs are, and then problem solving what their needs are.
So when you might be having like a bad day, how are you able to make sure that your customers don't feel that energy so that they can get their best?
Great question. So I'm a gym rat. So when I'm not having a good day, I go to the gym. That's my quiet time, my me time. And that's how I get my thoughts and my day ready, get myself ready for the day. And that's how I show up for myself, because I'm like, all right, yep, I got to change my attitude. I got a list of clients to see today. I got to make this work. And once I hit the gym and I get here, I'm ready to go. I don't even let that negativity get to me.
So when you're in business, how are you able to battle like those tough times? Like when maybe your business might like have like ups and downs, how are you able to keep on going?
Being very resilient, and knowing that I have a goal that I need to get to. So despite, what happens in the business, I have to keep focused, because things are going to happen. When things that are not expected are going to happen. And I already have that in mind, like nothing's going to run perfectly. So I just got to be able to, when things do dip, all right, how do I problem solve around this? Or how do I get around this? And that's what's really kept me for the last 4 years of just like, okay, I need to brainstorm. This is not working out. Sometimes I'll reach out to resources. And I'm like, okay, how do I figure this out so that I can move forward? And just having that resilient mindset and always having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C of how am I get around this?
So how are you able to develop a resilient mindset?
I have to say, it's something within myself, because I can't get it from anybody else. And in order for me to keep this business running, I have to be able to really face whatever it is, even if it feels like so daunting. I have to do it. Nobody else is going to do it for me. And that's the mindset that I have. Nobody else sees the vision. Nobody else understands the industry as much as I do. I have to be the one that shows up for myself and continue this journey.
So when you are building a team of employees, like what are some qualities that you are looking for in a person?
They have to definitely be a people person. They have to be very compassionate. They have to be a great listener, a great communicator, and they got to want to have a positive attitude when they come in here. And that's what I look for when I'm interviewing, potential employees. And I ask them, when was a time you had a bad patient or something unethical was happening? I ask those scenario questions to see how they would answer. And so far, I've built a great team. I'm very, very excited, and I'm very blessed to have them.
So when you have a bad patient, how do you deal with them?
So I will spend time with them. I will address the concerns that they're displaying. Again, a good listener, and we'll figure out how to problem solve. And sometimes if we can't agree, I say, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to refer you to another clinician down the street so that you can continue to get services. This is not working out here. And I say it in a very cordial way. I know, I'm not rude about it, mean about it, but sometimes some people that come in here, they're just not meshing with the goals and the values here, and that's okay.
So when you're problem solving, like what is like a strategy that you use?
So for problem solving, I would say for strategy wise, again, listening to what they're telling me, and then, okay, what couple of options could we target to help you solve this problem? Mm-hmm. So always giving them options, or hey, maybe this person you should reach out to help you along the way. So always having a couple of different ideas.
So in your 4 years of owning your own business, mm-hmm. what has been your biggest challenge so far?
I would say for my business in the industry, I would say cash flow is an issue because of decreasing insurance reimbursements. So I provide very value services, mm-hmm. but insurance companies don't always see that. So each year reimbursement keeps going down, and it really affects the overall of the business by paying my employees, making sure I can keep things open. And that is really one of the biggest cons. I was just talking about this yesterday, like the insurance reimbursement and then not being paid on time. Sometimes I don't get paid for like a year later for seeing people, which is not cool because I have to be able to run this business.
So what has been your biggest accomplishment so far?
I say being a boss lady here and being able to, I'm a minority, I'm a Black woman, and honestly, there's not many people that look like me doing this. And I think that's a huge accomplishment because I want other Black women that are coming up to see that this can be done. Absolutely.
So as a leader of your company, like what are some ways that you're able to uplift your team with you?
So I'm I'm an open book. So I tell my team, if there's anything going on, you can knock on my door, you can call me, text me. I'm always available for them, and they love that. I took out my team yesterday for Employee Appreciation Night, and they were just amazed, and they're like, this is a great place to work at, and just being an open book and saying, hey, if there's something going on, I want to know. I want to make sure we are all on the same page, and that if you have any concerns or anything, let me know like right away so we can figure it out. And I love the team approach where everybody is on the same page. So if we're working with patients and one day I evaluate and then my teammate, my PT sees them the next day, we're all on the same page. We're working on the same goals. And I provide opportunities for my team to like, let's huddle and talk about the case, all the cases, so that everybody knows what's going on. If they have questions about outcome measures or how would they have handled a treatment session, I have those discussions with them and they love it.
So I noticed that you got really excited when you talked about a Black woman owning her own business. Like, what's some advice that you would give to a young Black woman that is wanting to own her own business?
To not be afraid to reach out to someone like myself if they're really interested in the industry, and to shadow someone like myself to get a feel for what it's all about, and just be able to ask questions and be prepared, because some of the experiences I would definitely share with them with my experiences in the field. Most places I've worked in my career, I've always been the only woman of color. Everybody else is not of color. And being able to prepare them for those types of things and what to expect. So just kind of preparing them along the way. Don't be afraid to ask about, what that may look like, and ask about my journey. Like, I think being able to have that conversation would be very helpful for them.
So is that invite only for women of color, or?
Absolutely not. I have people that call and email me all the time about, being a physical therapist. So I'm an open book, and I always provide, resources and my experience to anyone that wants to know what's going on.
So what is the best way to find a mentor like yourself?
You gotta do some research. You gotta Google. Most times it's word of mouth. Many people, like in this area, it's not many people that look like me that's doing, so don't be afraid to reach out. There is some websites that have like Black physical therapists, so you can Google those things and see what pops up for sure.
So owning your own business in the past 4 years, what is something that you would do differently now with the information that you know now?
That's a great question. I think my business model would be a little bit different. I don't think I would focus on, yes, I do have a specialty of neurophysical therapy, which I think is a great need, but I think my focus should be more on the wellness component, and the neuro PT kind of be on the background, because wellness is more of, it's not covered by insurance, and I think if I were able to get people to invest in that, I think people would be willing to pay for it.
So you said if you were to change to have wellness, why would that be like so important to you?
Because I feel like I could probably get more people in here, and I could see people in groups versus one-on-one. I think I could get a greater mass of people to understand like what I do.
So you said that you were traveling before you own your own business. So what is something that you learned while traveling that you took with you to this business that you own now?
So I think the whole travel experience was amazing because it opened my eyes to what the other therapists were doing, like in the West Coast and down South. And I think, again, I just kind of saw that repetitiveness of like, okay, where do these people go once they leave? And being able to advocate like, hey, this person really needs a neurophysical therapist. And they're like, oh, well, we don't have that here. So I kept seeing that as I was traveling, and I'm like, I got to do something back home.
So being able to go out and experience other cultures, I would say, around the country, would you say that is what like really like your push to make sure, I want to own my own business and help people in my area?
I would say culture-wise, I think we all had the kind of the same mindset of helping, our patients. As far as coming back home, this is where my family is, and I knew that there wasn't a neuro outpatient here in the area, so I was like, you know what? There's a need for it. I did the market analysis. There's plenty of people that have these disorders that could really benefit from my expertise, and that's kind of why I came back home and started the business.
So when you were researching and noticed that there was a need, what was like the first step you took to make sure that you can help the people in need?
So once I did the market analysis, I started calling like different doctors' offices to say, hey, I'm going to be starting this practice. I think your patients would be a benefit to what I'm offering. So I started calling people and reaching out to doctors. And during COVID, you couldn't go to the offices. So I'm literally emailing office managers and different areas, like hospitals. Like I have a great relationship with the neurologist in Worcester. And so they already knew me. So I was kind of talking to them, giving them pamphlets and business cards like, hey, I think we could definitely partner with getting patients seen in the outpatient realm. So that's basically what I did.
So when you were networking with other clinics for patients, were you able to convert and like get partners to work with you?
It was kind of hard during COVID because everybody was kind of shut in. But most of my referrals did come from the hospital because people were still being seen. The hospitals were open. People were still needing to be seen, and services were needed. So that was what really helped me out with getting patients during COVID, for sure.
So being able to work through COVID to get patients, and then would you say that has helped you be able to get more patients now that COVID is kind of ending?
Yeah, because I kind of had an idea of what was working and what wasn't. So I know that even right now, I do marketing on the social media, but I don't get leads from it, but it's like my branding. But I do know that when I do talk to doctors and get referrals, that I do get patients or word of mouth, or I built up my website, I had it redone. People see the website and they're like, oh, I think this is helpful for me. So just learning from like that, like what was working and what wasn't, was helpful for me to get to where I'm at now.
So being able to learn from what works and what didn't work, what would you say has been like a shift in your mindset to be able to make sure that you continue doing what works?
I gotta, if it's working, I gotta stick with it. I can't just be like, okay. And I'm guilty of this because sometimes I'm a little impatient and I'm like, oh, this is not working, but I gotta give it a little more time. But if it's working, stick with it. That's basically how I maintain my mindset.
Being able to maintain your mindset, how are you able to pass off your mindset to your employees?
They just see me when I walk in. I don't really display like any negativity. Like if something goes wrong in here, I'll kind of have a meeting and say, hey, this is what happened today. I think we could have solved this a little bit differently. But I haven't really had those type of, like, I haven't had many incidents like that. So when they come in, I'm bubbly. Good morning, how's everybody doing? And it just flows, honestly. So I know if I got to show up, if they know that I got to show up and I'm doing great, they're going to do the same thing.
So what is some advice that you would give to your 18-year-old self because with your information that you know now?
So I would say, wow, don't be shy. I was a shy kid. Like doing this at 18, I probably wouldn't have. I'd been like, nope. But be confident. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to ask questions and believe in yourself. Because when I was 18, my self-esteem wasn't where it is now. Like I was kind of trying to figure out things, and I'm definitely a different person. So I would say be confident, communicate, don't be shy, and go for what you believe.
So how were you able to build your self-confidence throughout the years?
I would have to say, surrounding myself with like-minded people, and sometimes they mirror what you're doing, and you're like, okay, I definitely can do this. I'm definitely capable of doing X, Y, and Z. So surrounding yourself with like-minded people is huge, because otherwise, if you're around people that are not, thinking like you are, you're gonna say, oh, okay, well, I don't think I can do that, which that does happen quite a bit. I've had people say, oh, you shouldn't even do neurophysical therapy because it's not profitable. Where they're running an orthopedic clinic and they're seeing 8 people in an hour. That's not cool for quality. So I've had several clinicians tell me that, no, that's not going to work. And you started during COVID, that's not going to work. But I stayed with it, and I'm here.
So how are you able to balance your work with also your family?
It's not easy, but I've been trying to be better with setting boundaries. So when my work day's done at 4, I'm out of here. And if something's going on, I'm out of here. There's some nights that I do stay late depending on what task I need to get done. But I've been much better at being all right, it's 4 o'clock. I'm not answering any phone calls, no emails. I'm going home to hang out with my family. And that's what I've been doing. I've been a lot better this year than last year in regards to that.
So for my last question, I'm going to ask you just a little fun, what's a fun fact about you so that nobody really knows?
I love to laugh, and I'm definitely a gym rat. I don't know if you follow me, but I'm always posting videos about exercise, but I just love to do it. It's not because I want to show myself off, but it's just something that I enjoy doing. And I like to travel. That's my thing.
Where's been your favorite place that you traveled?
Oh, I went to South Africa before COVID. It was amazing. It's nothing like people think, oh, Africa's poor. No, this was beautiful scenery, great food. People were amazing. And I stayed there for 2 weeks. And that was probably my best trip that I've taken internationally.
Thank you for allowing me to interview you today. It was great. So I appreciate your time.
I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. See you later.